Lloyd, would you introduce our guest presenter for tonight?
I will. Let me just get to it. I had a full screen thing here. All right, we have had speakers in the past who were planning to visit a DX country for a few days. However, tonight we have someone who is a permanent resident of a DX entity, Liberia, and he's an active DXer. Tonight's speaker is Richmond Harding, Echo Lima 2, Big Gun. Richmond is the president of the Liberia Radio Amateur Association, and he's very active on both the HF bands and 6 meters. He has earned multiple DXCC certificates and other operating awards. And Liberia is not in the 100 most wanted DXCC entities because of Harding's effort to support amateur radio in Liberia. We are pleased to welcome Richmond to our group as he tells us about operating under less than ideal conditions and still provides Liberia to the world on an almost daily basis. Richmond, welcome to our group. The program is now yours.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the welcome. As you see, the very first slide has August 10th, and this was because my presentation, I was alluded that it would have been in August, so I had the date and everything included in the presentation. But I apologize, the presentation is this evening. Well, thank you again. I'm from Monrovia, Liberia. But right now, I am actually about 500 kilometers away from Monrovia in a place called Nimba County. And hopefully I will share light on the situation we have operating from Liberia. Next slide. Do I have control of the slide or you have control? Oh, good, okay, thank you. Well, this is a little about me. I started the hobby in 1978 and I earned a general license. In Liberia, I mean, the general class license is the highest category of amateur radio license. You have the novice, and then you have the general. And we had a technician, actually. We had the novice, the technician, and the general. But, you know, and at that time, we also used to do the must code. But now without must, we do the technician and the general. Well, interest in amateur radio, HF, of course, phone. I do a lot of rag chew. Sometimes I get to a station and we could be on it for hours. But now I'm involved in digital and also building of antennas, mainly dipoles. I took off the hobby of flying some years back. Flying is very expensive, and I'm a student pilot, I will say. I actually wanted to start from California. I lived in Sacramento for a while, and I then later moved to Florida. So I actually started the lessons in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. I'm also involved in photography. I've been involved in photography for a very young age. I think age 9, I had my first camera, and up to now, I still do take pictures. I had my first dark room. I owned my dark room when I was about 18 years old. So I've been involved in photography as an additional hobby for a very long time. We do have an association in Liberia. We have a club station and the Liberia Radio Amateur Association. I'm a member, a life member, and at present, I am the president of LRAA. Well, my day job, I'm a retired civil engineer. I graduated from the University of Liberia in 1983, and I've worked for the government of Liberia since the civil unrest that was in 1989. And in 1990, I was a refugee in Sierra Leone, where I also picked up a call sign. I became a member of the Sierra Leone Amateur Radio Club, or Society, they call it, and I got a license 9 Lima 1 ham radio, 9 Lima 1 HR. The only reason I didn't get the RH as for Richmond Harding, there was an American at the embassy of Sierra Leone. He had 9L1RH. So I got my initial, the back order, Harding Richmond. Also, when I moved to the United States, I would say refugee in quote, because I moved there in 1991, and I moved to Oakland, California. I was able to use my EL2BG call sign for several years, since Liberia has a reciprocal agreement with the United States. But then, I felt the need to have a license, stateside license, and I got my ticket, and my call sign is Kilo India 6 Yankee India Papa. I'm married. My wife is still in California with 6 biological children, and I've adopted 4 children already. My wife is still, my entire family, as a matter of fact, live in California. They're in Sacramento, California. And I left the family in 2010 to come back to Liberia to help build the infrastructure. Next slide. For a picture there of me there, my solo flight, or my Virgin flight. Next. How I became a radio operator. Well, it will be very difficult to actually pinpoint of an event that jolted my interest in amateur radio, because I have been interested in electronics since I could remember. At a very early age, without any training or prior knowledge of basic electronics, I found myself building electronic gadgets with audio capabilities. In my adult age, I was intrigued by security personnel talking through the walkie-talkies. And when I later read about ham radio mobile units in vehicles being used to contact DX stations, I was immediately hooked, and was then determined that I have such units in my vehicle whenever I was able to own one, which of course I did in California. I had a mobile station in my first vehicle I purchased when I was in Oakland. Next. The equipment in my shack, my good old Yaesu FT101 Echo, my very first radio, beautiful radio. That radio, due to the unrest, it was, during the unrest, we left our homes, and everything I had in my house was taken away or destroyed. The next radio I owned was the Kenwood TS440 Sierra with a built-in antenna tuner. It's difficult to purchase brand new equipment here in Liberia. So we locals, if we want to own a radio, we have to purchase it from some of the embassy staff, maybe Mille United States Embassy. A good number of the staff were amateur radio operators. And I got this Kenwood from one of the staffs that was leaving his assignment. Now the radio I use is the Yaesu FT857, the only radio I own at this time. Of course, I have an antenna tuner, the AT100 Pro. I do have a Signal Link USB integrated sound card to use for my digital, nearly FT8. And I have the power supply, the Alinco DM330FX. And of course, I love building dipoles, and I wanted a multiple antenna dipole, so I purchased the G5RV, and of course, a number of home brews that I do have. Well, it's difficult here in the States. You just realize 8 minutes, I got in, I think about 8 minutes after the hour, and I've been on since 10, my time now, well, Zulu time, 1000 Zulu, no, not 1000, 2200 Zulu. I've been on 2200 Zulu, been trying to connect the internet. I had to go to my main office and got the actual main router, because the router in my apartment just couldn't work. My phone couldn't work, and nothing could connect, and I was just frustrated. You know, I mean, again, I'm sorry for being late, but this is the situation we have in Liberia. It's either the internet, it's either electricity, and again, while I'm on, I could go off the air, you know, so these things happen. And so I purchased the Harbor Freight 45-watt solar panel. You know, I just said, well, let's try this, let's go solar. We have a lot of sun in Liberia, and you know, it's difficult to get power, so let's go solar. So I bought that. I also bought the 12-volt amp, 100 amp hour battery, and then the Harbor Freight 800-watt portable generator. Well, the unit, what I thought I would have used, you know, I mean, I thought it would have worked for me, but it really didn't work. I mean, it took a while. I tell me my internet connection is unstable. Next slide. Oh boy. Next, please. Oh, good. Okay, this is a picture of my Yesu, Fox Tango, and the Kenwood. That beautiful Kenwood. Now this is the shack at present. You can see the tuner, the antenna tuner, and the radio in the middle there, of course, my call sign. Next, please. Next. I think these will be a few pictures I had. That's the solar panel and the generator. Generator just didn't work. In fact, it blew out one of my power supply. I mean, it was just frustrating. Next, please. Okay, operating style, DX. When electricity or fuel was readily available, any time of any day, I will get on the air and call CQ from band to band and work whoever responded to my CQs. You know, nowadays we have the cluster and all of that negative. I just put on my radio, and I just listened out for clear frequency, and bingo, I started to call CQ, and if anyone responded, that was it. And then change band, and that's how I operated. If conditions were very good, a number of the stations that I worked would tell me to keep the frequencies and continue to call CQs, and occasionally pileups ensued. And sometimes I will work pileups for hours before the propagation prevented me from continuing my quest. I did not check propagation charts. I mean, at that time, I didn't quite know about those charts. Neither did I check DX cluster sites. I just put the radio on, scanned from band to band, and carried out my QSOs. In 2019, during the pandemic, I mean, I got introduced through YouTube of the FT8 digital. I made my first contact on October 6, 2019 at 11:07:15 with Alpha 82 Zulu. And the reports were +09 and -17. And since then, I have not looked back since propagation for voice is rare. I've even attempted a few 6-meter contacts, which were very uncommon. But I can tell you now, there was a group in the UK who got interested in working 6 meters from Liberia, working Liberia on 6 meters, and a 6-meter antenna was donated. And now, the first thing I do, again, it's difficult to get propagation, to get all these tools where you know when the 6-meter band will open or where propagation is. So I just put the radio on, and in the first hour, I'll just, stay on 6 meters. If it's right, I get a few contacts. If it's wrong, well, we just hang around. But now 6 meters is every day, it's opened, and I've been working 6 meters a whole lot. Next. Okay, this is the building I live when I'm in Monrovia. I built on the water tower, and on top of the water tower, I put a pole, a 20-foot pole, and that's the G5 RV hanging down to the eve of the roof there. Yes, that's my favorite G5 RV in a vertical inverted V configuration. Next, please. Yeah, things are tough here. I mean, I hope I will get a tower, but it's difficult. Tools. Until recently, the only tools I had were a pencil and a plain sheet of paper, and that's how I kept my log. Then I graduated to the standardized lined QSO template forms. I used that for a whole lot, for many years. In fact, my very first contacts, maybe my very first thousands of contacts before the civil unrest, all disappeared. And I just don't know who all I've worked, since my amateur career. Most recently, before COVID-19, I was watching the ham radio, the Ham Nation, that telecast with Bob Hyde and his team, and Ham Radio Deluxe was featured. And I immediately signed up for a subscription. Yeah, I think they had a special, and I don't know how much I paid the first time, but some people were lucky. They used Ham Radio Deluxe free. That they do have a free version, but I went straight to pay for my subscription, and I'm still using Ham Radio Deluxe today, and even paying for a monthly maintenance fee. Well, a yearly maintenance fee, not monthly, but if you have any problem, you can just call and someone will assist you. I had to transcribe all of my paper logs into HRD logbook. It took months to accomplish that feat. My entire log from 1979 to 1989, as I mentioned earlier, was never recovered due to the Civil War. My QTH was ransacked and everything I had was destroyed. Next, please. One of my early pictures in 1979, I was, I think I had just joined, 79 with a 2-meter. In fact, this icon, by the way, I still own this icon, the IC0280. There are certain things you don't part with, those first memories of amateur radio, your first radio. It takes a while. You just love to keep it. Of course, you see a little pipe there. I really do not smoke it. It's just an image thing. I just hold it and put it in my mouth, just, move around, but I never really smoke my pipe. Next, please. Well, I was quite young. Secrets to my success. Again, persistence, persistence, persistence. I am persistent in doing everything in my power to get on the air, to give opportunities to all stations around the world who want to work Echo Lima. I mean, just now, for the past 2 hours, thinking I could do it on my own, using my own resources here, I had to leave my house. I went to the office and got the office modem. You know, it's just, I had to be on. I mean, I had to be on. And you give me this opportunity to explain some of the situations we go through. I just didn't want to miss it, and I had to be on. I consistently tune up my G5 RV dipole to its peak performance to be able to get my signal out of Liberia with approximately 100 watts and to be professional and courteous doing pileups. Again, there's a tuner. Once you tune this tuner, it gives you a readout. It has the wattage on the very top, the peak, and sometimes it's between 75 and 100. The antenna tuner tells me it can go up to 125. And of course, the Yaesu FT 857 can do a little more than 100, but again, I'm between the average of 75 watts. That's what I put out. But again, it's understood as 100. So we say 100 watts. Okay, it is my hope that one of these days, I will have the opportunity to have some shoes on and not keep working barefooted. Yeah, I'm trying, you know, I mean, personally, I hope I could get an antenna, I mean, a linear amplifier. Of course, whenever I travel, I make this request, not for myself per se, but for the club, because we do have an amateur radio club here, and we are trying to encourage the local hams, the local Liberians, because 99% of the folks in the club are all foreigners. You know, they're all embassy staff, Lebanese, you know, and it's very difficult to get the young folks involved. Next, please. It was, wow. I have so many. Well, I really have a lot of awards, but I have the DXCC. I do have 20 meters, 50 meters, digital phones. I mean, if I could really put them together, it'd be a whole lot. I'm not really an award chaser. And if I were to apply for all of the many awards available, I know for sure that the four corners of my shack will be covered from top to bottom with frames of awards. Cost of the award is actually my drawback for applying. You know, sometimes some awards I think are free, you pay for postage, but a good number of awards, the DXCC, you have to apply and then send the check, send money or pay, whatever means, but it has a cost to it. So that's the reason why I'm not just an award chaser, because of the cost of the awards. Next, please. Again, I'm sorry. I hope I had the control of this thing, you know, but it will go much faster. A picture of some of the awards I've acquired. Again, it's good that you control it, but again, it's all because of the situation working as a DX station. You never know what can happen, what can go wrong. Next, please. Well, I was in the middle of a presentation of my club station, the club station here, and then, you know, power just went and that was it. As QRZ has a number of awards. This one, yeah, if you want the actual frame, you pay, but you can print your own award from, I think, DXCC. I know QRZ, and these are some of the awards that I've acquired through the QRZ awards configuration. Next, please. The country Liberia. Let me tell you a little about Liberia. So a lot of folks really, know Liberia, maybe through the amateur radio, but to really know the nitty-gritty. Liberia, a country on the West African coast. It is bordered by Sierra Leone, that's 9 Lima, to its northwest, Guinea, 3X, to its north, Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, Tango Uniform to its east, and the Atlantic Ocean to its south and southwest. Population, I think we are less than 5 million, but we like to say 5 million. There's a census going on now. Hopefully we'll know for sure. In fact, even with the census, it will still be difficult to actually know the population of Liberia, because the way it is done, I mean, not everyone is counted. I mean, the resources, the method, and all of that, it's just difficult to have an actual count of Liberians. Of course, there's almost a third of Liberians outside of Liberia. And merely that was due to the civil unrest. I mean, that was the only reason I went to the States. I had planned to go to the States for my master's, which I got while I was in the States from UCLA. I got the master's in project management. Now, the area of Liberia is 43,000 square miles, slightly larger than the state of Tennessee. Official language is English. Of course, again, I do speak English, but again, my accent, and sometimes I speak a little too fast, and it's difficult for someone who hasn't heard a Liberian speak. Sometimes it's difficult. So I try to speak a little slower so everyone can understand what I'm saying. Of course, when I'm on the radio, I guess everyone hears me, hears my report when I give. The capital city of Liberia is Monrovia, of course, named after James Monroe. Liberia began in the early 19th century as a project of the American Colonization Society, the ACS, which believed Black people would face better chances for freedom and prosperity in Africa than in the United States. Between 1822 and the outbreak of the American Civil War in 1861, more than 15,000 freed and freeborn Black people who faced social and legal oppression in the United States, along with 3,198 Afro-Caribbeans relocated to Liberia. That's how Liberia was known. But there were indigenous folks here already. But with history, we talk about the American Colonization Society that repatriated Black that were taken as slaves, and they wanted to find a free place, and Liberia became that place. Next, please. Oh, that's a picture of Liberia there, Sierra Leone, Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, Abidjan, of course. All south is the Atlantic Ocean, open seas, beautiful beaches. Next, please. Beginning of amateur radio in Liberia. Wow, this is the long one. The Firestone HR radio network had an exclusive operation in Liberia. I mean, in 1926, the Firestone Plantations Company acquired the right to lease up to 1 million acres of land, roughly 4% of the entire country, for a period of 99 years, 99 months, 99 weeks, 99, everything to 99. And that's actually the fact. Firestone Rubber developed its own telex company, the Trans-Liberia Radio Telegraph Company. The operation was utilized, the operation was to utilize a shortwave radio system from Akron, Ohio, USA, to the rubber plantations in Liberia. And that's how they had the signals going, you know. From 1937, single sideband radios were used primarily by Firestone Plantation Company's employees stationed in Liberia to maintain contact with family members in the United States. Mainly, again, a lot of the folks that came for the Firestone were from Akron, Ohio, till the year 1962. Well, the year 1962 is well, Liberia enthusiasts from all walks of life in Liberia, now the locals and all got involved, realized and acknowledged the hobbyist aspect, the benefits, the personal or otherwise, and the service to humanity of amateur radio. The Liberia Radio Amateur Association was established in 1962. In 2022, that marked LRA's 60th anniversary. And I had an elaborate program to celebrate the 60th anniversary. And with all the resources I put in it, I mean, I was the only celebrant. That's how much, you know, I mean, at this time, amateur radio, you know, is taken in Liberia. I mean, I tried to do all the publicity. The few local hams we have here, I mean, they promised to come there. We went to a place called Patawi Waterfalls. I mean, I had folks from all over. I had stations manned, and I alone just was there to celebrate the 60th anniversary. And that is what I don't want. I want the local Liberians to get involved. Amateur radio is an interesting hobby. And once you get involved, you know, you just want to stick to it. Next, please. Next slide. Okay, in those days, those years of political correctness, as you can see, Firestone, 1937, my brothers and sisters were here lined up, and the call sign EL2A was placed on the chest, stomach, but that's what it was. Those were the days. You can see this card. It was December 30th, 1937. And the time, just about the time we are now. Actually, it's just 5 minutes ahead of this time. Yeah, this peak time of this contact was Zulu 40 GMT. And look at that report, good report. Next slide, please. This was Hank Gould. Okay, another one, EL10 Alpha. Again, another guy from Fast. Next, I just want to show you how far back amateur radio was in this country, 1951. Now, amateur radio in Liberia at a crossroad. We have the pre-war, we have the war years, and believe me, during the war, there were folks using amateur radio. I mean, they used amateur radio where the radio spectrum to transmit the war thing, but amateur radio was used as amateur radio during the war. We had some bogus call signs, we have folks coming in, but the association survived during the war years, and then we have post-war. Next slide, please. Okay, pre-war. In pre-war Liberia, amateur radio operators could be seen from within staff members of concessionaires. We had the bond mines, the German folks were here. We have embassy folks, we had medical facilities, faith base, a lot of religious missions that came. Amateur radio was the base to contact the family members, just like Firestone did. Government quarters, including common everyday folks within various communities. Yeah, during post-war, when amateur radio was really out there, we had a lot of locals. I mean, real local Liberian born, but not anymore. Individuals who had keen interest in tuning their electronic skills and learning new technologies. All this pre-war. A number of local Liberians became licensed operators. About 10% of local Liberians, about 90% foreigners, mainly embassy staff. All of the embassies you could think of, they had folks there that could that had radio rigs, and of course, they became part of the association. I mean, they just became part. Amateur radio is something you don't hide, you share, you go out there. We used to have field days and all, but not anymore. Next slide, please. During civil unrest, that's 1989 to 2003, boy, can you believe it? We were just fighting here, fighting ourselves, killing ourselves for no reason other than greed for power. Due to the sitting president Samuel K. Doe's action against a group of people from a different ethnic group, an uprising pursued, hence the 14 years Liberian civil crisis. During the civil unrest in Liberia, amateur radio operation continued clandestinely, with most traffic geared towards health and welfare through third-party communication. Now, I was able to handle hundreds of health and welfare traffic from Freetown, Sierra Leone, through phone patch to the States. Boy, can you remember phone patch? It was a lifesaver. When I got to Freetown, I got my license, my ticket. I hooked up my radio. In fact, the radio, the Kenwood, that Kenwood was actually shipped from Freetown. There was an American friend I had. He was able to ship that Kenwood all the way. It was supposed to go to Freetown. It went to Germany, through the diplomatic pouch, and then came to Freetown. And I had lines. The house where I stayed, there were Liberians that were there coming. When they realized what I was doing, exposing them to their family members, because most family members thought, the siblings or the relatives were dead. But when I used amateur radio, and again, as Liberia is almost like a stepchild of the United States. So a lot of those folks had family members in the States. So we used phone patch. And man, by the time I got on the radio, we had some guys from New York, and they were just ready. Oh, Richmond, you on again? Yes. Give me the number. That's all they would say. Give me the numbers. And we had phone patch, third-party traffic. And that's how a lot of folks got to know that their family members were still alive. Next slide, please. Amateur radio operation in Liberia post-war. That's today. In today's post-war Liberia, amateur radio is gradually picking up the pieces to enable Liberia to get back on the radio spectrum of the International Telecommunication Union, the International Amateur Radio Union, and other global communication networks. To date, there are only 3 active licensed local hams and 1 American operating in Liberia with the Echo Lima call sign. There are, in fact, about 30 licensed members of LRAA on the official roster. As the president, we used to pay for our ticket, an annual fee for the license, $60. I mean, the money thing was another drawback for locals. Folks here, their daily obligation is to find food to eat. I mean, the guy is not going to give you $60 to join amateur radio. So I pleaded with the authorities. I mean, I had a lot of push, So now amateur radio license is free. Of course, the first one you have, because of the paperwork and the red tape, I charge for foreigners now. I charge $50. I think $50. And then after that, once you are here, your license is free. No more payment. But you do have an initial payment of $50, but the rest free. Next, please. For locals, it's all free. Again, I want to take this time to thank the Madison DX Club for giving me this opportunity to tell my story. I thank you all.
Richmond, that was just a fantastic presentation, and history of Liberia and your own history as to what you went through to keep amateur radio alive is truly inspiring, and it helps all of us reflect on what kind of goodness that amateur radio can bring, as you talked about the phone patches. So thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for your service to your country, to your extended family. It's a wonderful story.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Richmond,
Yes, sir.
the Madison DX Club had one of its members, I believe it was probably somewhere from the 75 to 79 timeframe. Is there any chance you knew EL2BG, Bill Shannon?
I've heard the name, but for some reason, EL2BG is another ham, Moses Pittman. He carries that call sign. For the year you talk about, 1979, yeah, it could be Bill's call, but no, I don't think I remember.
Okay.
But I can look because I do have the roster from the past.
We used to have a schedule. We talked to him every single Saturday night. He worked for Voice of America, and they would. Yeah. He and a couple of the others would contest from out at the Voice of America transmitters. After they shut them off at night, they'd go out and not use their antennas to contest with and so forth. So just curious if you possibly knew him.
Yeah, I mean, we had more Americans in terms of embassy staff that were part of amateur radio. Of course, not all of them, I think, really, joined the club or were regular, who attended meetings regularly. But we had a good number of folks from the American embassy as amateur radio operators. We had Italian, just all the embassies you can think of. Even Nigeria, 5 November, we did have a guy at the Nigerian embassy who was an active ham, and we're all good friends.
Well, thank you very much. Very nice presentation. And I know you guys really literally went through hell on that uprising.
Thanks. I mean, my story from Liberia to Sierra Leone, it's a different one. So it was horrendous. We were on the ship for almost 5 days, just sitting there waiting to take off. And even the way that we got in the port to leave, because we were all waiting for the ECOMOG. We heard about this peace group coming, and it was just bad. We went through a lot, and I was in Liberia when they even captured the president and killed him. I mean, the war started in 9 December, Christmas Eve, and I was here in Liberia until 90-something, September 90, before I was able to go to Freetown. Then from there, I went to the States, where I filed for asylum because my story was the real thing. And I got the asylum, and then my family, we all became citizens of the United States. But I decided to come back home because my career as an engineer, I mean, I'm needed here. Of course, I'm retired, but I still do pro bono work, which I'm doing right now. So I'm glad to be back here. Of course, I do go back to the States every year for my medical. Of course, retired. I also, Uncle Sam is now taking care of business. But that's some of the things, and again, some of the folks I used to talk to when I was here in Liberia on the air, on the radio, I was able to meet them. While I was here, I became a member of the OMIC. There's a group of guys, and I've attended a number of their outings. They have outings every year, different state, and I've been to a few of those outings, and I've met a lot of folks that I used to talk to on the radio. Never thought I would see them, but I've seen them. So amateur radio has been good to me. That's why I like to spread the word. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes,
Do
sir.
you work phone yet? or are you just digital?
I do phone. I mean, I listen to phone. Well, yes. I mean, with my there's a group. We do on 40 meters. On 40 meters, we call it the Big Gun Group. That's 7.128. Believe they might be on now, and my signal was very poor. But since I've moved here, I'm actually getting 5 and 9 in the States with my G5 RV. I've been getting some very good reports. Now I can go on the phone right now after this presentation. If you give me a frequency, we can go and give a try. I mean, the phone was my thing. Sometimes during pileup, I'll be on the pileup and I will work maybe 50 or 60 before the band will go down, and I will just work and work. It's all phone. As I said, I just got to know about FT8 or digital. I've tried FT4, FT8, all the other things I've tried. You know, with my resources, capacity through the Ham Radio Deluxe, which I use meter for log, but you can do a lot of other things. And we can try phone. Give me a frequency. You know, just send me a WhatsApp message, and we can try phone anytime. Well, again, with the presence of electricity, yes, we can try phone. But I'm always available to go on the phone with anyone. I mean, any band except 8, attempt 160, and 80 is a problem, but I can do all bands. Let's just put it that way. Thank you very much, Jabab. All right, anything else?
Thanks again, Richmond, and I hope you'll get a chance to chat with more of us on the radio in the upcoming days and weeks and months and years. All the best to you.
Thank you, Kevin.